What's up, Shred Sexies? Welcome back. Death to the Fingers. I guess a few updates are in order. People been asking if I'm still doing the walks. No, I've switched to my ground game now. I'm doing like a half an hour workout, with push-ups and whole upper body workout stuff with weighted squats and all kinds of nastiness. It's really not fun, actually. I thought, oh yeah, no, this won't be so bad. Just kind of start working them in. And after the first couple times, I could almost not walk. So, I was like, okay, it's time to switch over then exclusively to just getting my body into shape because I really need to pick it up over November, December, and January when I know I'm going to be like basically landlocked. So it's a perfect opportunity and I'll be motivated right out of the gate to just hit it hard and do what needs to get done with respect to just finishing off this little, whatever health and body transformation. So it's going good. If you were doing the similar thing, which was doing the walks, then I suggest you, come up with like a 25 minute exercise routine, with like 20-second intervals in between each round of exercises for about, a minute. I usually do a minute 20 to 2 minutes, whatever that is. It'll definitely put you through the paces with like tries and buys. And honestly, you don't really need huge weights. So food for thought. I thought it'd be easy, but failure. No, it's not. It's just absolutely punishing. I'm doing better now. It's getting better now. But honestly, those first 3 or 4, they kick my ace. I'm not going to lie. So there's that. The mixes with respect to Super Void are coming along amazing. We have finally graduated to the next level I was working on. The Pale Enthusiast, it sounds absolutely crushing. I was just like, damn. So that's going really well. We are now moving forward. The mix phase, finalizing whatever this mix is done. And just really getting the last few pieces into place with learning how to mix and make a decent recording. So now it's up to you guys after I release it to be like, yeah, no, he was talking shiatsu, or no, he delivered. We'll see in a month or so. So there's that. And then I think that's it. Now on to the video here with respect to the Rush thing. There was a lively debate because basically they pulled a Twisted Sister, right? Which was, they're like, we're not going to tour anymore. And honestly, I respect that. And I don't care that they are touring. I want to say this up front. This band is an institution. I have their album Chronicles. I listened to it for like probably 3 years straight. Learned every song. Knew every drum fill. Knew all the lyrics. I just loved it. I just loved the entire double album situation. And a lot of times it was just one or the other. You could just put it on as something in between 2 other albums and just be like, this is great. It's not just, they have great albums. Obviously, I've listened to Moving Pictures a million times. But there's just this cool spread, if you will, of music that they go through, especially between the early years and the later one. And they're both good. They're both really good. Subdivisions, like, come on, how many covers have people done of that? That's how cool that song is. And that's what I mean. Like, they're an institution. So there's no disrespect here to the band at all. None. But at the same time, you have to be critical, right? Because in my opinion, there's like a lifespan of a musician. You sort of, accrue the skill sets, you tour and stuff like that until you can't really do it anymore. And then you transition into something else, promoting bands or running a recording studio and finding new talent and getting that stuff hooked up or whatever it is, you know what I mean? And you become like the next generation of people that are stewards of the industry because you kind of went through the shit. You know what it's like. And instead of like perpetuating the same sins of the previous industry, you could be proactive in actually making it better and more equitable for everybody. everybody wants to get paid. And listen, I understand the risk reward factor and sort of, when you have to put up your own money versus just going on stage and, entertaining some fans, at least in the minds of some of these people. So there's a big risk there, which means they get to take a bigger cut. But it has definitely gone way beyond that. So, you know what I mean? To me, that makes more sense than just bands constantly touring past the expiration date, what I like to call. And that's basically when, realistically speaking, it's not there anymore. I hate saying that too. But I remember about, I don't know, this has got to be 5 or 6 years ago that I saw a live clip from Rush. And I was just like, woof, Now, listen, it could have been bad audio or combination of a whole bunch of these things. An off day, one of the guys was sick or not really feeling it, or it was the end of the tour, they're just worn down or whatever it was. I don't know what it was, but essentially it wasn't good. And I've seen that lots. Dave Lee Roth was one recently. Dave, I love you. I absolutely love you. I was listening to Women and Children First yesterday, and it's a masterpiece. I love you, man. Retire, please. Do not tarnish your reputation anymore. You don't need this. You're already a legend. We already love you, man. It just makes it hard to watch. And the same thing with Rush. And I get that they have a desire there. Make music then, man. Just make studio music and do one-offs. But just don't play the old tunes anymore. It's over. You've used and abused your instrument, like your vocals, which is usually the first thing to go, to the extent now where it's just as pointless. Even tuning down and stuff like that's not helping. And I'm sure it's like your ups and your downs and stuff like that, but eventually it's just like, sorry, no. And that's just it. Like, I'm wondering if we had treated music more like in the old days, where you had to have like this really high consistency level. You know what I mean? So it's just like every concert was phenomenal. Because the quality of musician was absolutely ridiculous. You had Vivaldi and Mozart and Beethoven and all these guys, right? So, and then like huge underclass underneath them that were equally good. They may not be as well known, but trust me, they're just as good and just as devastating. And some of them are truly spectacular. Like they're more unknown dudes, man, that had to rely on some technical elements. Holy smokes, their music is absolutely nuts. So, you know what I mean? It is what it is. But then we kind of introduced this element to be like, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And don't get me wrong, man, it definitely shifts the units when you're talking about CD sales because it's cool and it's badass and whatnot. But we definitely also brought the bar down. And listen, that's just it. Like, I don't believe it is a bar. It's like a range based on the listener. There's lots of music that I like is considered, or would be considered borderline in every aspect. Just noise, basically. Noise. They'd be like, that's garbage noise. Turn it off. And I'd be like, man, listen to that. It's just absolutely devastating. I'm just like, right? Like, I love it. So I totally get it. And then there's other stuff that's, it's whatever, it's certified. It's like, this is a magnum opus. And that's true. When you listen to it, every aspect of it is just amazing. From the production to the creative output to most people's perception of the music. So that's my thing is when your whole raison d'etre is to be able to deliver that and then take it to the extra heights. That's the other thing. I don't think a lot of people remember this. Maybe the older guys do from the 80s. That going to a concert, we didn't want to just see the album again. We were already listening to the album constantly. It was because they would actually embellish stuff. They would throw, like, go to an extreme. It's the Grateful Dead. The show is basically different every night. But on the other side over here, you're talking about, just, oh, we're going to extend out this one part, or we're going to extend the intro here, or whatever it is. Right? And or longer guitar solo, the drum solo, the keyboard solo, whatever else is going on. What other sort of nonsense they had going on? The laser show. Remember that with Triumph? That was awesome. Triumph. Canadian lads. Then you had, the video screens and everything. That was pretty big. Pyro, obviously. But again, we started getting more reliant on like video screens and pyro and less about the sort of the extra little bits of music that were being added to the stuff that we already loved. You know what I mean? Now it was about a spectacle. It was like being like visually engaged just as much, but sort of skimping on the music. And that's a prime example of what I'm talking about. Like if we had kept it the other way where it was just like you're playing music and whatnot, and that's the constant. You're just tweaking subtly these songs. And I've seen bands also do this. They tweak a song and they make like little variations on it, and then all of a sudden the song becomes that live, where they just keep repeating the same variation. I'm just like, no. It's got to be spontaneous. Yeah, okay. For like half the tour, it's basically the same thing, but then you're like, okay, we got to change it up or do something different somewhere else. Right? That's what I'm kind of getting at there, and put it in a different place and have these sort of like cool touring moments, which obviously still exist, but just make that more preeminent with respect to the whole whatever live experience. So that's the other thing is they're like, oh yeah, the drummer. I'm just like, yeah, if you've seen this drummer that they got, she's amazing. She's really damn good. Like, could easily do it on any level, and probably, even improve in certain areas, just because, again, the modern musician had people like Neil to learn from. Neil was at the vanguard, like Eddie, with drumming, I saw that with bass. John Entwistle. Have you ever seen him? Most people are like, who is that? I won't ruin it. John Entwistle. Ent, like the tree thing from Lord of the Rings, and then whistle. Right? So I was just like, oh my God. What? Wow. Holy smokes. And the bass. Come on, kid. What's up with that? It was just like, wow. But still, I was just like, had my face taken right off. You know what I mean? I was just like, that is just blistering. Like, seriously blistering. So, and plus, he can really dial it down too. That's just it. When he wants to turn on the nitrous oxide, which is the way it's supposed to be, he can. And he does. But this new drummer could easily play Neil stuff and probably improve on it now. But the thing is like, that's just it. You're talking about music that was the heart and soul of like these three entities. You know what I mean? It's like saying you can grow a tree absent, oxygen, the earth, and water. Take one of those things away and the tree doesn't grow, doesn't even live anymore. So that's just it, is you can get somebody to play the parts and it'll still be good. I'm sure it'll be great. And again, there's no disrespect to the band. I wish them all the best on their tour and stuff. I'm just questioning why. You know, like, you have done the best you're going to do. You got it on tape too, which is even better. So we get to see it live over and over when you were like at the highest points. With live albums, with DVD releases and stuff like that. And it's just, now I just don't feel like, you know, the fire that's necessary to deliver on some of that music is there anymore. I know they want to play it and stuff like that, but you know what I mean? To do it justice, to really, like, imagine hearing Subdivisions during that tour, how much more aggressive it would have been and sort of upbeat and stuff like that. It wouldn't have been as laid back as what it was. You know what I mean? And that would have been a good thing because it would sound actually a little bit better, just sped up by a few beats per minute. In my opinion only. It feels a little laid back, but still an absolute legendary song. Or Red Sector A. Another one, you know what I mean? Or Big Money, just sped up a little bit, just like they always do in live settings. It just adds that extra element of excitement to the music, and especially the live experience. You're like, oh my God, listen to them go. They're just absolutely tearing it up. I saw Priest do this with The Hellion and then Electric Eye. Their down picking was so ridiculous. I was just like, that's shocking. I'm like, there's no way I could do that for the whole song. Negative Kid, and they're just like, no problem, just put it into gear, and it's just like absolute precision. So it was really awesome, you know what I mean? And that's what I'm talking about. When you're sort of like in the prime, you can crank that stuff out and it really comes across with conviction. And I feel like sometimes when you get into these situations, it sort of feels a little less impactful and more, you know, soulless. And of course, they could be concentrating on just releasing new music. You know what I mean? Instead of just trying to capture the glory days again, put out something new that sort of re-envisions what you were doing back in those days. I do that all the time. It's a great exercise. Be like, remember when you were like in this mode of thinking? I was like, yeah, remember that song I did? And then I sit down, I listen to it, and I'm like, try to do something else, sort of like that. But with, you know, these new sensibilities or whatever it is, doesn't that sound like a more worthwhile time of creative endeavors rather than just, you know, being on a treadmill playing the music that you've already played like thousands of times before? And that's my thing, is like it's kind of comes across as autopilot, you know, besides the solos and stuff, which are fine. But again, when there's no real sort of outside influence pushing you to sort of be like, do something else or change it up or something else like that. Plus, especially when you get old, I'm 50, man. I don't like doing anything new. You know what I mean? I don't even like going outside. So you feel me there? Like how adventuresome on learning new guitar techniques and stuff like that and factoring those into your solos. Oh, I think I'll do this cool diminished run here. You know what I mean? Like, no. You're just going to do what you've been playing for years and decades because that's what people like. And of course, that's what they expect. But that's my point, is just like at the same time, you end up with what I call the KISS syndrome, where you're on this treadmill. It's like a circus. You know what I mean? It's a well-oiled and professional circus for sure. and they do a great job, whatever that means. But to me, that just comes across as like nothing more than the metal version of Sabrina Taylor, or wait, Sabrina Carpenter and Taylor Swift. Yes, you heard that right. Sabrina Taylor. She's pretty hot though, right? Like, I just actually saw a picture of her yesterday. I was like, oh, that person looks strange. It's because they're like 4'5", but pretty young lady. There it is. So yeah, that's my feeling on the Rush thing. I wish them all the best and stuff. Obviously going to do the tour, but for me on that stuff now, I'm done. I'm passing on stuff like that. If it's not new blood doing new stuff, I can't be bothered anymore. I'll just put on the old stuff and drink a beer and just sit around reading a book, enjoying those moments and reliving all of the great moments I had listening to the music in the first place, which is invariably what's going to happen. So I don't really care if I need to go to the show anymore. And those people that are going to the show and they're happy to do that, listen, do it now, because it will end soon and that'll be it. And maybe this is it. They're like, okay, just one more time around the sun and we're done. Or maybe one or two more times and we're finished. I understand. As far as these guys are concerned, this is their job. This is what they've done their whole lives. It's pretty hard to hit the off switch when that's like part of it, just touring like this. So they might be stir crazy. The last thing I want to talk about here is the Spotify thing. I saw it on Mixbus TV with David Nosey, and it's worth talking about. I mentioned it 4 years ago. I'm like, abandon Spotify now. Do yourself a favor and get off there. It'll be less painful, and you'll be doing yourself a massive favor, and you'll be doing the music world a massive favor by sending a huge message to the corporate entities that you can't be owned through these tangential connections where they're like, oh yeah, no, as a person that gets their music on Spotify, we're going to pay you. So it's an actual revenue stream, which basically reels people in, of course. But then in reality, what happens is Spotify just starts to appropriate your music and use it in ways that you never actually authorized them to, and they do so for free. And that's come full circle now, where if you put up your music on their website, basically what they're saying is that they can copy your music using AI. They can recreate it. They own license to it in perpetuity forever, right? And they can do like basically anything they want to it. The second you upload it to them, you grant them a license to do this. And if you don't know how to protect your interests, if you will, in a court of law, especially under those grounds, yikes. That's not something you can just walk into, even if you do have legal experience, because those are some deep legal waters there. So be forewarned, it's better just not to have Spotify at all. But that's just it. They can take it, and that's just them paving the way now to scrape literally millions of songs by real human beings using AI so that they can create Spotify clones and basically create like a Ponzi scheme for themselves, where their own cloned AI artists that mimic real people, but get promoted more through, Spotify adjusting the algorithm to favor it more and get out there. They start, creating more sort of income streams for themselves off the back of people who are either apathetic because they're like, or they're just like in denial and they're like, I don't want to take my music down because I have 500,000 streams over the last 10 years or something. And I'm like, it's a cool accomplishment, man. Take a screenshot, but you'll be doing yourself a favor. Just go put it up on Bandcamp for now. And if you're doing it properly, you would just have someone set up a web page that had some sort of music playing widget, so people could just go listen to the music there, right? And then you can also sort of sell the music there, and furthermore, just centralize everything, so to speak, right there, without actually having need of the third party. which is what you should be doing anyways. The whole YouTube era, the whole Spotify thing, it's getting awful. It's getting so bad that I saw that on YouTube, Davey504, I don't know if you know who that is. It's a huge channel on YouTube. He's a bass player. But he's like, I'm quitting YouTube. I thought it was a joke because they usually do them for a joke and says, no, I'm just kidding. No, he's legit quitting YouTube because he's like the weaponization of all the copyright strikes on the videos and stuff like that is just, it's becoming overwhelming and I don't want to do this anymore as predicted. Right. So all of the old sort of ways are dying, I guess you could say. And the thing is if you put your music up on Spotify will just rip you off and then create a clone of it and then bury you in the algorithm and promote your music from their AI artists that'll collect all the money that you should have been getting. So you're just basically working for your AI overlords at that point. So take your music down and don't give them any more information, although they probably already scraped it. And you go ahead and read the terms of service. After you delete all your music, it'll say in there that they don't actually delete all the music. They just hold on to it. So, you know what I mean? That's why I took, I canceled all my accounts before I released new music because I was like, you can have the license to the old shitty music. I don't care. But the new music, no, that'll be exclusively under my control. And that's just it. You'll just have to do it as, like I said, this little personal project that you have where it's like a video game, you get enough people being like this band, they're pretty good. And so instead of getting 100,000 or 1 million people buying your video game, you'll get like 5 or 10,000 people buying your CD at like $10 a pop. And if you're running stuff through a business, that's not a bad little tiding there. I don't know if you could live off it, but if you built it up from there kind of situation to have like a customer base of about 20,000 people that are prepared to spend like $9, $11 or something like that, and maybe some other merch, then you'd probably be fine and actually be quite wealthy. And that's not an unreasonable goal. And that's my point is, once again, you're seeing the private equity type mentality asserting itself over these creative spheres like Spotify and YouTube. And Facebook was one of the first ones to get nailed and nuked. Obviously, Instagram's another one. It's just all the little watering holes are drying up now, and it's just like, it's just kind of pointless. And so you have to think outside the box, and that's just it. If people would starve the Spotifys of the world of their attention and stuff and just be like, all right, go ahead, put your AI artists up, and then see how many people keep up with their subscription. They're like, well, it's not real people anymore. It's just AI music. I don't want to give you $20 a month for that. I give you $20 a month because it's real human beings put stuff up there, and then it blows, Spotify's foot off, but they do it themselves. You know what I mean? And they learn their lesson kind of situation. Then they have to woo the people back. And of course, if they were smart, they'd be like, okay, yeah, but we need assurances now. And then you pounce while the iron's hot. And that's just it. We constantly pander to sort of the highest, sort of conceivable power, which is money, because we don't really have it. And we're all kind of clamoring for it, I guess, at least perceived. And that's just it. When you base the relationship around that dynamic, obviously you're giving all the power away to this one person that doesn't care about your art in the first place. They just care about making money. Right? So there's a bit of an imbalance there. So that's why you have to become your own best friend, if you will, and your own record company, and just figure it out for yourself. And that's, again, the whole thing is, it's like, just sit down and be like, well, what does it mean to incorporate just a company of one person, and then start watching some videos and get some paperwork and look at it and start filling it out, mocking it up, if you will. And that's my point. You're going to have to accept at one point or another that you're not going to be able to do things like we did in the old days anymore, and you're going to have to completely rethink your strategy, right? I think Russia's going to find this out. They'll be like, there's just no money. People can't spend $300 or $500 to go spend money on a Rush concert ticket. So, uh-oh, right? We'll see. Maybe because it's Rush and they might know that it's one of the last tours, especially the reunion since Neil passed away. But we'll see. I don't know how crazy the world is, how big that's on anybody's radar list. You know what I mean? Because a lot of these older bands now have sort of lost a lot of relevance, and Rush has been out of the limelight for quite some time now. So 6 years or something like that. I don't know. Anyways, the long and short of it is that as far as what we're doing, you can't rely on that model anymore. The Rush stuff, what came up in the 70s and the 60s and stuff, and was basically cemented as the business model in the 80s, and it lasted until like the 2010s, and then it's been collapsing ever since. We have to abandon that and instead become little islands of our own sort of financial success, where you slowly but surely build up your resources first with your music acumen and your recording skills and just getting it out there and building up a bit of a following and whatnot, and having some sort of strategy to funnel people there to be like, look, I got my first subscriber, whatever it is, and build it up that way. And then from there, branch out. And the other thing is I would make it about the music. There's nothing that kills the vibe and the energy of a website faster than begging for money. Just be like, check out the tunes. I'm actually almost positive I'm never going to really be asking for money. If you want to pay the price or whatever, go give money and buy it off Bandcamp, sure, whatever. But you know what I mean? I just can't be bothered anymore. I just don't care. And that's just it. If I have the money and stuff like that, be the first thing I would do is with that, instead of buying studio gear, was buy some space on the internet and get my own custom website built up to release music in that capacity. And of course, stream it on there, do transactions, preferably have some sort of forum situation, maybe even be able to do live streams directly from there. So I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. Or just link up with Spaces, or again, you have YouTube or Rumble if you wanted to, or other sort of streaming services, no doubt, to get your message out there, whatever it is. But that's just it. You know what I mean? Let the Spotify thing be a lesson to everyone. If you don't basically start taking control of your creative endeavors, somebody else will just usurp the control, and then they'll take it and steal it, and then you got nothing because you're not going to be able to fight them in court. So take it down now, send a very, very strong message, and again, think outside the box. What is your plan? You're going to play music and stuff like that? Then be like, okay, start dicking around with some easy recordings. Once you get that far, be like, okay, start collecting them into songs. Once you get 10 good songs, release an album. Figure out how to do the cover art, or get somebody to do it for you. You know what I mean? Get some physical copies made up, whatever that is. And so on and so forth until you're ramped up to the point where you're like, oh, got my own website and stuff like that, and you're mailing stuff to people. That's how Tom McDonald does it. He's a rapper up here. I think he's in Canada. And he does very well for himself. He does basically everything. And that's why he does so well, because he makes all the scratch. So there it is. Okay. Now that's with rap. And of course, rap is kind of fading off. And really, it's just becoming an every man for themselves situation, because the industry itself is what's on fire. It's not necessarily the artists. It's the industry that's just basically toast. So the best thing you could do is be like, well, I don't want to get lit up like a marshmallow. So you just back away from that bonfire and set yourself up in a new zone, and just be like, once people are like, oh, hey, what's going on over here after the big fireworks show, and start fresh. And then again, slow and steady wins the race. That's my video for today. It's a little bit longer than I normally have. Whatever. I'm leaving it. Thought it was pretty interesting overall. And that's just it. Again, I love Rush. I wish the band all the best. And it was just for the sake of arguments that that's my personal feeling on some of this stuff based on my reaction to some live performances. That's what I'm saying. I know it's kind of a dick move, but I said it anyways. And then, of course, the sort of buyer beware aspect with respect to Spotify, which I've been warning about for years. They're just evil. So get out, get out, take your music down, and start thinking about a new paradigm with respect to getting your music out to the people. And of course, embracing new tools. Instead of making YouTube videos, start doing AI videos and figure out how you can do that. If you're spending money on YouTube Premium, you might want to convert that into, having some sort of AI art platform where you can create something and then use that with DaVinci Resolve or whatever it is to make like a cool sort of like lyric video. It doesn't have to be overly fancy or whatever it is, or be like this whole drawn out production. It starts up here. Think about how simple and guerrilla a lot of 80s videos are. And the kids are just the same this time. There's a whole sort of like genre of music called vaporwave. Go look into that. If you want to talk low effort, it's just huge. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. Think outside the box. You never know. And that's my thing is the more creative you are on all levels with your music, the visual performance, lyrically speaking, how you look, if that's the way you want to sort of have that aspect worked into it, sure. Whatever else, you know what I mean? Then that it all takes time and effort, and you got to ramp up slowly on each one of those things so that you get relative in skill sets. You know what I mean? So when you have your opportunity to actually make an impression on somebody, they're like, yeah. They might come to you and be like, I'll give you a really good deal. And that's the thing that puts you over the top. See you in the next one.